I'm Wendy from Stoneflow Designs. Today I'm going to walk you through how this was made. This is a bit of a statement piece, I guess. It was inspired by a photo that I saw on Facebook the other day of the Abu Dhabi salt lakes. I'd never seen anything like that before. I was quite captivated by the uniqueness of it, and I thought I'd try and recreate it just for fun. So if you Google it, you'll see that there are various photos that come in all different shades of color. I particularly liked the green one, so this is what I've done. I have used the Mortafil again, and no, I'm not being paid by them. I just really like the product. It's very versatile. It resembles a lot like the salt patties and the salt formation, but also allows you to create that rougher texture around the edges of the salt, the loose salt almost. It has a texture of loose salt. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really love this as I was making it. There were many moments where I thought I would just abandon the whole thing. It didn't really have the wow factor to me until the very end. But that's art, right? You just keep adding more and more until you finally get to a point where you love it. And that point for me was the last layer of resin, where I added these drops of Pinata ink, white alcohol ink, and they sort of resembled the salt forming and created quite a sense of depth as well, which I really liked. It was at that moment and the placement of the stone patties that I kind of took a step back and went, wow, I actually really like this. It is unique for sure. I would definitely do a few things different. I'll wait until the end of the video to run you through the three key things that I would do differently. I think that that's the beauty of this YouTube channel, is I'm happy to make unique pieces, learn from them, share how I made them, and then hopefully if you're inspired and you want to make the same thing, yours can be even better. So one thing I did want to do, or I was toying with the idea of adding the 24 karat gold. If you look at photos of the salt lake in Abu Dhabi, it does have the white crusty salt, but it also has sand at the edges, which could potentially lend itself to a bit of gold around the edges. But I really liked it and I didn't want to risk ruining it. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you think that maybe just a touch of gold around the edges, just a dusting of 24 karat gold might add to it and not take away from what it actually is at the moment. This is just a little sample piece I did of the 24 karat gold dusted on a piece of Mortafil. I did a few of them to try and test out whether I wanted to add it to the piece, but I just didn't want to ruin it. So I'm going to leave it up to you. If you think gold would make it better, please leave a comment and let me know. And if there's enough people that think adding gold would actually add even more wow to it, then I will, and I'll make a short video just showing you how it turned out in the end. So without further ado, let's get started and I'll show you how it was made. Thanks for watching. Okay, so I'm just cutting the photo paper. I've got my sheet of aluminium to size, and now you can see that the photo paper is taped down on the table. I am using HP photo paper, and I'm using the back side of photo paper, not the glossy side. I've got some alcohol or acrylic inks and one alcohol ink. The combination of using predominantly acrylic ink mixed with 70% isopropyl alcohol and 30% water with just a touch of alcohol ink works quite well. So in the large glass bottle, I'm using just a light green color, acrylic ink. You'll find the details of the products in the description. That is mixed with 30% water, 70% isopropyl. Then in the smaller container, I've got a liquid tex sap green. Again, this is acrylic ink. And that is also mixed with the 30-70 ratio, 70% being the alcohol, 30 water. Acrylic inks really like water more than alcohol, so if you mix it to that ratio, it works quite well. I'm using quite a concentrated amount of the sap green. And then lastly, you can see I'm adding alcohol ink. So again, this is quite a concentrated amount. I'm using Pinata Rainforest Green, and that is mixed with 100% isopropyl alcohol. So now I'm just getting ready to pour them out onto the canvas. I'll be using mostly the light green. As you can see, there's a lot more of that than the other colors. And the other colors will just add a bit of accent to it. So I think that there's some sort of effect that takes place when you add the alcohol ink into acrylic ink. I don't really know the scientific effect, but it seems to create a bit of a texture. It's quite nice. I'm really happy with it. So I'm just letting the ink settle, and I will be getting the heat gun to blow it around. And as you can see, it changes a lot once you start adding heat to it. You can see the heat gun is quite effective in changing the way that it looks and adding some texture. I think that that's also due to the combination of the acrylic ink and the alcohol ink, but I think it actually came out really well. Okay, so I've untaped the photo paper, and now I'm going to glue it to the aluminium sheet. I'm using golden soft gel gloss. I put it on quite liberally. Using photo paper, when the glossy side or the absorbent side is down, it actually absorbs a lot of glue, and I wanted to make sure that it was going to stick really well. I think this is the only time in my life I've ever used a rolling pin. It actually worked quite well in removing the air bubbles that were there. So I'm going to cut the photo paper that's glued to the aluminium. I'm just using a sheet of plexiglass. It works quite well in allowing the blade to have something to sink into. It helps clean up that edge. All right, now I'm adding the Mortafil. I am adding it all the way around the edge. That's for the purpose of sealing the resin in, so I didn't get any drips off the edge. I didn't end up needing to do that. I didn't have the deep layer that I thought I was going to, but I was really pleased to find out that it actually sealed it perfectly. There wasn't any leaks whatsoever. So good to know for future projects. If you're looking for a solution to seal the resin onto a piece, Mortafil acts as a perfect barrier. All right, so now it's time for the first layer of resin. I'm using a clear coat of Art Resin. As you can see, I'm using a skewer. I'm just going around the edges with the skewer. Due to the rough edges of the Mortafil, you get a lot of small bubbles that hide in the edge, and just by going around with a skewer, it sort of brings them out. Now it's time to make the salt patties. I basically was looking for 3 items that I could use that wouldn't create very many marks in the Mortafil, but would also have that circular edge that would create the lip like the salt. That one worked out really well. The rest, they were a little bit of trial and error. This one didn't really work out very well at all. The Mortafil stuck to that was a silicone mold. But I was able to just sort of manipulate the center a little bit and use something else to push it down. Those were allowed to dry for about an hour, and then I used a spackle wedge, I guess, to slice them off. Underneath, they were on a silicone mat, but even silicone, this Mortafil will actually stick to silicone. So you do have to slice them off the silicone before an hour is up. Otherwise, you might end up breaking them. All right, so we're back to adding more Mortafil. I'm basically just leveling it out before I can sand. Time to sand. As you can see, I'm using an orbital sander. That was a really bad idea, sanding this piece in my art room. Well, the sander had a really good dust collector. There was still a fine layer of dust everywhere. So I won't be doing that again. I'm just adding a little bit more Mortafil just around the edges. If you look at the photos of the Salt Lake, the edges all have a bit of a lip on them. There is a smooth surface working up to the edge, and the edge does have a bit of a crusty lip on it. Same with the salt patties in the center of the lake. So I was trying to recreate that, as well as creating a bit of a smooth surface beyond the lip. And then around the very edge of the piece, I added some more Mortafil at the very end and created a little bit of a rough surface, so it looked like loose salt almost. But this part here is just doing the edges. And I went around the entire piece doing this. It took quite some time, but it was worth it because it really added it added to the piece for sure. Okay, we're on to our last layer of resin. This is just a clear coat of resin. I'm just spreading out an even layer, and once again using the skewer to go around the edges of the stone just to remove some of those bubbles that are hidden away around the edge, and also using the heat gun just to remove the other bubbles. And now I'm adding some drops of the white alcohol ink. This is a Pinata alcohol ink. It's kind of creating a sense of depth in the water, as well as creating something that sort of looks like the salt forming.
it was, as I mentioned earlier in the video, it was sort of this part that really, in my eyes, created that wow factor. It really did help to add the depth in the water. And once you place the stone patties next to the drops of ink, it looked it really gave that effect of the salt forming. So I really quite liked it after this part.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed watching that video. I did promise that I would run through the 3 things that I would do differently if I had to do this over again. One is I would not put the Mortafil all the way around. And in the beginning, when I started out, I had this idea of the resin being quite deep, so I needed to seal the edges. But in the end, it didn't work out that way, and the depth of the resin was because I was going to put some Mortafil in here, but I liked the ink so much I didn't want to cover it up. So there was really no point in sealing it the way I did. So if I was to do it again, I would leave it open on the edges, sort of here and here, I think, so that it has more of a flow to it. And I would also, the second thing that I would do again is I would put it on a square piece. I mean, I love the shape of the rectangle, but I think that the rectangle shape really lends itself to a piece where you're going to do 3 of them. Having the one makes it a little bit tricky as to where you want to put it. You know, if you do have a space that is narrow, then I guess this would work quite well. But for most people, you're looking for a wider piece or 3 smaller pieces. So I probably would have done it on a square piece. I think it would look better. And thirdly, I just used way too much Mortafil because of my initial idea of having it so deep, and I ended up sanding so much of it away. So I would start with the plan that I'm going to do 1 layer of Mortafil, and you could have really done it all in 1 layer and not sanded so much. So that would save you a bit of money because it's not a cheap product. But other than that, I'm really happy with it. And once again, I do need your insight as to whether you think that I should add gold or not. I think perhaps maybe the gold would look nice, but I also think perhaps if it was framed and there was maybe a matte that was gold-ish, I don't know. But anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear whether you like it or not, whether you think I should add the gold. That would be great. And of course, this is a new channel, and I would really love it if you would subscribe and give it a thumbs up if you liked it. That just helps me grow this channel. And I'll be making another piece that will be airing in hopefully a week or 2, probably more likely 2. This is a hobby and I work full time, so I am limited on time, but I am aiming for a video a week. So we'll see how we go. We'll see how we go. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'm Wendy from Stone Flow Designs.